what's everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your own custom computing needs when it comes to gaming, creative, whatever it might be. Dark Fusion Systems has the computer for you. You can get $100 off your entire build using the code CPPPOD at checkout or anytime during your build as well to get the best custom computer you possibly can get. You know, Ryan Kirby uses them, so go check it out. Oh yeah, link trips to the podcast. Let's have some fun. Also, now it's time for our feature presentation. We have Aiden and Alexander from the Canadian band Ethereal Tomb on the podcast. We discuss how they grew as a band, how they've gotten to this point in this Canadian scene overall, and why they're in the business of doing and how it impacts their connection to the Indigenous communities around Canada. So this is a great one. Don't miss out on it. And now you're going to get the whole thing. Are you guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. As we've been highlighting the Canadian hardcore scene on this podcast for the past 2 months, we always ask those bands to suggest other bands in the Canadian scene so that we can get to know about them and possibly bring some more of them on the podcast. The band Fight On Sight recommended a couple of bands, and they brought up this one to us. They said they were more like metalcore, but they're actually more like sludge metal, doom metal. But hey, I still enjoyed it, so we decided let's go with it, bring them on the podcast, and boom, here the guys are. So please welcome Alexander and Aiden from the band Ethereal Tomb to the podcast. So gentlemen, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being on, guys. I really appreciate it. And one thing I like to do with the bands I find out from the Canadian scene is, I don't know all that much about you. I'm not sure how many people know that much about you, especially from our audience. So I'd like to start up by asking, can you give me the band's origin story? Like if you guys were making a Marvel movie, not a DC Comics movie, because those movies, are kind of crappy, of course. But if it took phase 1 Marvel, origin story movie about how the band started. So go for it, guys.
So I always wanted to be in a band, and I was in the hardcore scene for a long time, and I felt incapable of playing an instrument, so I was just a photographer, videographer, filmed a lot of shows. And then over the pandemic, I kept trying to get people together before that and during, and people would just kind of flake out, and I was just okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna learn guitar and I'll just start the band myself, because I only realistically, because I couldn't play an instrument, I could only sing before. So I was okay, fuck it, I'll just learn guitar. And then a couple months down the road, I started this little journey with Ethereal Tomb.
That's about as quick as it comes into it, man. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, though. Just if you have the time and you want to be able to start a band and do something with it, when you've been in the hardcore scene for a while, but you've been more on the photography, videography, film side of it, and people are starting, especially during the pandemic when we had a lot more free time to do other things that we couldn't do, going out more socially because of restrictions. Yeah, why not learn guitar? Why not take that piece out of it where you don't have to depend on someone to do that, so you can start the band yourself and then have other members come in over time that are going to fit in with what you want to do and are going to also have that chemistry set. You can do your thing, and then all the other members like Aiden over here can continue to contribute and also add his own spin on the band as well to continue to grow it the way it has been.
Yeah, I actually got no time off during the pandemic. I was finishing college, and then I started working 40 something hours a week, straight out of college, or if not more, because I was in the restaurant industry, and for beginning of the pandemic, the restaurant industry kind of fucking blew up because everyone's just kind of at home, has money to spend now, with all the government bullshit. And so I was working a lot, and I still managed to fucking get some time in to play guitar there.
Not bad, not bad. So how did Aiden come into the mix on this? So I got to ask you, Aiden, now your origin story into Ethereal Tomb. Can we get get an Iron Man style story or something like that? Just that kind of quality. I mean, if we got to get Robert Downey Jr. to play you in some point in time, we're going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do my best. Alexander and I talked about it recently. I can't remember the exact time frame as to when I came in to Tomb playing bass. I'm not an original member right from the start, though. I think it was 10 months after, maybe. Alexander, can you confirm?
It's like 10 or 11. It's like,
Yeah,
if
10.
not right in the middle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Alexander hit me up one day. He needed a bass player. And my initial answer was, not really my thing. I don't play bass. I've been out of music for, oh geez, it would have been like 6, 7 years at that time. I would pick up my guitar every here and there, but for like 10 minutes, I would just put it down. I get frustrated and say, no, that's not it. Um, so I originally said no, and a lot of my other homies were like, "Nah, you're an idiot. Like, play in a band. It'll be so much fun. You love music. Like, just go for it." So I think maybe a week or two after, I ended up going out and buying a bass, and I said, Alexander, if you need a bass player, I'm your guy.
No,
And
actually, I reached out to you 2 weeks later,
oh, a
the
second time.
the day before our first show, because we had someone filling in at the time. Um, the day before our first show, I was like, "Hey, man, I still haven't found anyone. I just want to re-extend the offer."
Yeah, at that
And
point,
and
I
then
got
he's
a
like, "Yeah,
bass,
fuck
and
it."
sure, I'll play bass. So that was my first time really playing bass ever, was buying my first bass, learning a couple songs with Alexander and Ethereal Tomb, and then playing my very first show about a month after that. And then it's just been uh, fun ever since. It's something I want to keep, stick with. So
It looks like your friends were right in trying to kick your ass and saying, hey, man, go after music. It's something that you love. You're going to feel the passion behind it. From you picking up a guitar and then 10 minutes later, like, nah, I'm not
I just
feeling
didn't
this
feel
right
the
now.
drive anymore until, yeah, my friends were like, nah, you're dumb. Do it.
Hmm.
And honestly, me looking back, I would be telling myself the same thing. So big respect to the homies for that one.
Yeah, they had the awareness for you that you didn't have for yourself at that moment, where now you look back
Exactly.
and you're like, thank God I had them, because you could be living a life completely differently right now. You could be just sitting there, working a 9 to 5 job, potentially just like, oh, I wish I was doing this. I wish I was still in music. I wish I was playing in a band. I wish I was on stage. And you wouldn't be, but your friends were there to recognize that this is what you're passionate about. This is something that you really belong doing. This is something that you want to do. So why aren't you doing it at this point in time? That recognition from them helped put you in a great spot, it seems like, personally, because the way you spoke about it too, especially towards the end, just this added energy in your voice behind it really set the tone for this is what you really wanted to do. And even you saying, yeah, I looking back at it, probably should have kicked my own ass at that point, but thank God you had friends to do it them for you at that point.
Totally. Honestly, it filled a hole I didn't know I had. It would be a nice way to put it.
That is a good way to put it. That really is. So so you guys, okay, another question I have for you is, especially coming to you, Alexander, you said you spent so much time in like the hardcore scene, especially when it comes to the videography side, just everything when it came to a lot of other production of it. So why all of a sudden when it came to Ethereal Tomb, did you go more the sludge metal, doom metal route, especially you've been more prominent in this hardcore scene beforehand?
Well, I am also like a really big like metalhead. Um, and like hardcore, like I got into like Slipknot and Guns N' Roses and Cream and Black Sabbath at a young age. And I kind of like was into that, and it kind of fell to the wayside, never completely, but then I came back to it like around like 12 or so, and then I found straight edge. I heard of straight edge, and I was like, oh, this like I was like, there's people not interested in like, substances. I was like, this makes sense. I was like, this is my people. So I was like, so I looked up straight edge hardcore, and I found Minor Threat, Have Heart, and Aviator. They're like Aviator's like a post-hardcore band, like super unknown band. But the Last FM or some shit recommended them to me. So those were like the three bands I found, and I was super psyched on them. And that was like the beginning of my hardcore journey. And then when I started playing guitar, the first three songs I learned were Fix Me and Nervous Breakdown by Black Flag and Straight Edge Revenge by Project X. Um, but I also love metal, like I said, and I love Black Sabbath. I love Electric Wizard. I love Sleep. Love Pentagram, and honestly, a lot of that shit's pretty fucking easy to play. So when you're first starting to play guitar and also wanting to use it as a creative outlet, it made sense to kind of go like a stoner doom or like a doom sludge kind of direction because it's slow. It can be easy, like if you write it to be
Mhm.
easy. And that's kind of just how it started. And then as I've gotten better at guitar over the past 3.5 years, the music just kind of gets heavier and faster, like all the time.
So, okay, that makes a little bit more sense too, because even when I was thinking about it, when it comes to like sludge metal, doom metal, there tends to be a little bit more of this melodic, slower pace to it to really add this sense of, especially from doom metal, this impending feel of just despair, just darkness, but it's got to be slower, it's got to be heavier to really drive that forward. Sludge, it just kind of adds a more of this dirty flavor to it in terms of the overall tone. But again, you're thinking sludge, you're trying to like walk through this stuff and you're going to be moving slower. So the tone and the pacing ends up matching up with that. And if you're going to be practicing something, you're going to be trying to learn something, it makes sense to go with something that's going to be a little more simpler and slower and not try and get into, trying to play the same like fast paced style as Herman Lee of Dragon Force. Like you don't want to jump right into trying to do Through the Fire and Flames, not even on Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
No, we're talking real guitar at this
I
point.
applaud anyone who can jump into that pretty quickly.
It'd be pretty damn impressive for people to jump into that just willy-nilly out of nowhere. Even some of the best guitarists too, because it's like, yeah, you might be able to play some of this stuff. You might be able to play a little bit more technical. You might be able to play a little more complicated stuff. But can you do it that fast and that consistently? Nah, maybe not.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need to.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes the song doesn't really call for it. But again, it does kind of make sense, and it just adds more to it so that as you continue to grow as a guitarist, you're going to be able to do other things. You're going to be able to quicken the pace. You're going to be able to add a little bit more of these different progressions to it, add more of these different intricacies to it, so you can do faster stuff. So you can just, really increase the overall repertoire and sound of Ethereal Tomb going forward.
Yeah, like seriously, if you listen to the first material to the new material and then the new material that we're putting out in the spring, like it's literally just a tangible progression of me getting better at guitar. Is pretty much just what it is.
But I'll say that tangible progression to it. One thing I've noticed, especially when it comes to bands and the ones that really, really, really increase their overall skill, their overall style, and increase the overall ability of what they're able to do is they have that progression from like one album to the next, from one sound like style to the next. Like I'll use Bring Me the Horizon the perfect example, because you go back to Count Your Blessings and it's going to be one way, but as they progress through their album discography, it slowly changed over time to the point where now it's like whenever Bring Me the Horizon does, it doesn't surprise anybody because they have the ability to do whatever they want. And it's been built up over so many years and so many different sounds, so many different trials in terms of what you want to do with that sound, what you want to do with your music, and just what you're able to do. And as you continue to grow as a guitarist and as you're able to continue to expand on what your ability is, you're going to have the chance to explore different ideas. And as you get into other music as well, able to take the influences from that, put it in your music, and be able to do that in a way where you're not limited to if you were a more inexperienced guitarist from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, totally. I love when bands like can like organically like put themselves in different boxes. Like Black Sabbath has so many different types of sounds, and so does my favorite band of all time is Joey Jordison era Slipknot. And even just over those 4 albums, they wrote so much, different. They put themselves into so many different categories, and
Yeah,
I like if a band could do that.
Yeah, they really did do that, especially from like, you listen to Iowa and you listen to All Hope Is Lost, or All Hope Is Gone. I said All Hope Is Lost. Jeez. Look at me not knowing all my Slipknot stuff. That's, I'm going to blame the concussions and all the hits to the head I've taken over the course of, 29 years at this point. So,
Fair enough.
But it's like, you listen to all those different sounds and it's just, there's going to be a consistent bass with Slipknot because there always is. It's going to be a Slipknot song. But there's going to, like, if you listen to Joey Jordison era, there's slow different progressions that are going to change from one spot to the next where they can do different things. They did do different things. And it expanded the sound of Slipknot to what they're able to do going forward and what they're continuing to do as they've gotten on with their career with stuff like, We Are Not Your Kind and what they just did with, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the one thing that I've found to be cool when we release new music or I show people new music like before it's out, they're like, "Okay, this is different, but it still sounds like Ethereal Tomb." And I think that's a cool quality to retain. And I think like Slipknot again as is a good example where it's just like you have subtitled to All Hope Is Gone and onwards, and like they all just sound like Slipknot songs even though they're so completely different.
I was gonna say that, you know, when you just said as you show people new stuff and they still feel it's you guys, as the style can sometimes change or sometimes can be grown upon, that you still have that Ethereal Tomb sound at its core. That is a very good thing, because as I've noticed with the bands I like and the bands that really expand their sound and try different things, and where they succeed in that is because there is some piece of their core sound that is still unique to them and is going to be consistent throughout their music. I'm going to use Bring Me the Horizon as a perfect example, because I think That's the Spirit is probably the perfect album that shows this, because you listen to stuff from Sempiternal or earlier, yeah, you're going to have this heavier bit to it. You're going to have a lot more of this metalcore driven style, even some more deathcore driven style stuff as well. But beyond That's the Spirit and on there, you're going to get a little bit more of this arena rock or alternative style. And then you go to post-human survival horror, and there's going to be a lot more of a mix on there of what the band's able to do. But you listen to everything that Bring Me the Horizon's put out, and it's like there's something there that still makes this Bring Me the Horizon. It could be from a vocal style. It could be from a vocal tone. It could be from a guitar tone. And I think that's where architecturally comes in to show this out, where their guitar tone really stands out as that consistent feel and consistent piece that allows them to expand their music, but you still know it's them. If you guys have something like that, and you know your fans and the people you show it to are able to recognize that, that's something that not a lot of bands have, and it's something you can continue to grow on, and it's something that is special, that as you continue to grow, you can go into any different direction you want, and it's still going to be cohesive and feels like it's coming from you guys. It doesn't feel like it's a complete massive shift to try and get some, you know, some extra popularity there because a certain style is popular at the time and you guys are just like jumping on a trend. You know, you guys could still do that, but there's still going to be a piece of you that's still in there from a songwriting perspective. And that's the key to, like, you know, making sure you can have that longevity as you grow your sound.
Like, yeah, people have said like, oh, it's like I don't know exactly how they're framing it, but it's just like they'll say something like, "Oh, like you chose a good time to like have hardcore elements in your band now." And I'm like, "Bro, don't fucking talk to me like that. Like it's like I've been around, you know what I mean? I'm not some fucking tourist like just putting hardcore elements into the songs all of a sudden. It's literally just me getting better at guitar and like being able to put elements that I wanted in before in now."
Yeah, that's kind of one thing you definitely have to continue to put out there too, because you're gonna get people that say that stuff, especially as Canadian hardcore continues to grow, especially that scene in Ontario, which is, from what I'm learning and what I'm seeing, is absolutely insane. Plus, hardcore music getting a little bit more of a prominence in, you know, more of the not pop culture and metal specifically as well, with bands like Knock Loose, Kubla Khan, and some of the more influenced bands of hardcore that have a little more of that metalcore sound. They're like Alpha Wolf.
Mm.
I'm gonna take that
Yeah.
as a yes, just the
Yeah, it's been really interesting to experience like all of this, and I'm 24, and it's funny to meet people my age or like people even older than me, maybe like a year or two older than me, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, this and that," and they're like, "I don't know that band," and I'm like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Oh shit, like you just got into hardcore." And I don't mean that in any condescending way at all. It's just an interesting thing that happens sometimes. Where it's just like because my brain just associates like anyone my age to being around, back a couple years before it was popular. So it's been cool to see like all the cool new people come in and learn the customs and bring their own energy to all of it. It's a yeah, I think a good way of putting it is interesting.
I think it's a good
It's
way
fun.
to put it too, just interesting. And Aiden, have you seen similar things, you know, in your own interactions with people, not only in the scene, in the Canadian scene as well, but also just anybody that you might interact with around music?
Um, totally. I mean, I think I'm on the other end of that. I'm new to hardcore myself, and what I find interesting is finding a new band and getting excited about them. And I always go right to Alexander because he's my homie from hardcore. You know what I mean? He's kind of introduced me to that, and every time he's like, "Oh yeah, I know that band." Like, what was the most interesting recent one to me? It was I was listening to Point of Contact, and I couldn't remember how to describe it. The album cover I could picture, but I finally figured it out, and I said, "Hey, do you know this band?" And Alexander's like, "Yeah, it's a straight edge band. Like I've heard of them. Totally." I always love that the realization, seeing other people that know these bands reacting to me discovering them for the first time.
Alrighty, that's even more interesting that we have, two band members here. One that's, much more into it, one that's, just kind of been introduced to the scene as well. So you're getting that different perspective of someone that has been there for a while, seeing the growth of the genre, seeing the growth of the scene as well, and try and also wrap your head around the fact that not everyone's going to know the different artists. Again, that's something that I totally understand too, because there's certain bands even that I'm like, oh, hey, check out this band. And everyone's like, what band are you talking about? I've never heard of them. I'm like, how have you never heard of? Wait a minute, that's right. You might not be into this.
You got to take a step back. Yeah.
I've I've learned to take a step back more and not assume as much anymore. But there's always that sometimes where it's like some of the bigger bands who it's like I'll say and someone's like, who the heck are they? And I think they're bigger. Then all of a sudden I look at them like, yeah, they might not be as big as I thought they were unless you're like actually a little bit more involved as much as I am. So whoopsies. But at the same point, when it comes to Aiden with your end, it's got to be exciting just, seeing like a lot of people in your same position as well, getting to know a lot more of these bands, getting in the scene, and just also having fun with a lot of the people that have been around and just growing this overall scene, growing this overall style in much more of a constructive way compared to just like, okay, now everyone's jumping into the scene because of like some trend on TikTok. And I'm kind of going towards the Bad Omens fans on that one. Not the ones that have been around, but a lot of the brand new ones who, when you go to a concert and the mosh pit opens and they don't know what the hell to do. Yeah, I kind of have a little bit of personal stories on that one. So that's why I said it.
Yeah, it's good for these kids to just take a step back and witness and absorb kind of like what's going on. Like Ethereal Tomb shows, like we play with metal bands, we play with hardcore bands, but even when we play with hardcore bands, like the younger fan base that we have will come out, and like I know, like me and some older dudes have like purposely gone out of our way to like, maybe we don't necessarily feel like dancing as much as we did, but we know like that there's a lot of kids here who may have never even seen what the fuck's going on. And so we kind of just like set the example a little bit. And then a couple shows later, you see those same kids like learning how to two-step. And it's really cool to see.
That is always something that's cool to see. I kind of wish, especially like around here where I'm at, where more people have, like when we get those big, like some bigger shows that come through, that more people just kind of, take a little bit of a step back, especially in the newer fans. Not necessarily take a step back in terms of, no, I want you to enjoy the show, but take a step back in terms of there's going to be people there that know what these shows are like. Just kind of see what's going on and don't like react right away because you think you're just not used to it, especially when it comes to like a mosh pit style thing, because yeah, there's going to be stuff that happens. If you don't want to be around it, you're more than willing to just, move a couple of rows behind the pit or to the side of the pit or in front of the pit, where you have that little bit of buffer zone in there and no one's going to even come near you because we got the wall around it. Everybody's going to be good. But if you want to jump into it at the same time, you're more than welcome to maybe take a song or two to see what we're doing and then just jump in and kind of like follow along, because the last thing you want to do is, especially like if you're just if you're in a hardcore pit, jump in, get smacked, and then take offense to it. It's like, no, this is what's happened. Or on the flip side, if you're just in a normal mosh pit where it's like everyone's like, shoulder checking each other, trying to knock each other to the ground that way, and you come in and start throwing fists of fury, okay, maybe this ain't the show to do that part at. Just see what the crowd is like. Vibe. Read the room on that one, everybody. Yeah. And it's once you read the room and you see like, oh, this is what we're doing for this band. Oh, this is what we're doing for this band. perfect. We're all set. And heck, there's even some shows that I go to where it's like, okay, I'm not the biggest into, full on hardcore dancing, not fully my thing, but I'll get into those pits as well. But if I get hit in the face, I always think about it. Don't get mad. This is what happens.
Yeah, that's just the thing. That's just where you're at.
Just where you're at. You just gotta get a lay of the land. But the fact that you, especially, from your position, Alexander, where even some of the younger kids are going to shows, you guys are setting the example. It's by setting the example and seeing them come back to shows and start to learn to do this stuff and really take it into their own. That's something that is even more important than just, just going there and just having a good time. It's because as I look at it, they're seeing what you're doing and then they're taking a part of it. They're feeling like they can do this. They join in with this and they don't feel like this is anything restricted to them. They feel like it's a space where they can jump in, have a blast, be themselves. And then now, not only are they new to the scene, but now they're connecting with the people that have been there for such a long time so that they can become a bigger part of that community, a bigger part of that scene. And then as the next wave of people come in, they're the ones that can lead the charge and also set the example going forward.
Yeah, totally. It's a circle.
It's the circle of life.
We're happy to see people do whatever they want to do at the end of the day. Because we played all different types of crowds. So, if we've had shows where people don't fucking move an inch and the room is pretty packed. And then we just have an endless sea of people coming to talk to us after telling us how fucking sick it was. You know what I mean? So like we're psyched. Like realistically, we're just psyched to see people like a crowd express themselves however it's organic in that moment.
I like that as well because you never know how a crowd's going to take to you guys. You never know what their idea for a show is. You never know what the vibe is going to be as well. The vibe could be completely different based on the bands that you're playing alongside, whether it's something that's a little bit more slower, maybe it's something that's a little bit more focused on the hardcore side. As long as the people are vibing along and they're enjoying the show and you guys are putting on a show that they're going to remember the next day for the positive, that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, let me ask you this question. What's been your favorite show to play of all time and why? Like, what's the memory that you have that's just like, holy crap, I'll never forget this because of how cool this was or how awesome the crowd was? Something like that.
Aiden, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. It's hard to choose just one, I feel, because everything's kind of unique or special in its own way. But the most recent one that really stands out to me still would be our London, Ontario show from our tour with Cancer Bats and Black Mastiff. It was at Rum Runners. And the only reason it stands so far above to me was the amount of staff that was at the venue, I guess. Like, it was great not having to like carry our stuff all the way up. We had people start our shit up. That was really cool. We've never had experience like that before. And I don't think I think it's just the venue. I think it's just how they operate there. That show was also, I think it was one of the sold out ones. Regardless, it felt like it. It was so busy. And I distinctly remember looking out over the sea of people and going, wow, like there's a fuck ton of people here. Like this is awesome. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, that show really stood out to me as a favorite. Top 3 for sure out of my career as a bass player.
My favorite shows, like I have 2, but they're like so similar in the way that they're special for me. We did a benefit show earlier this year for Nationsgate Youth and Toronto Indigenous Harm Reduction. And the venue told me it was a 50 cap, and I was like, yeah, sorry, boss, that's not gonna happen. And I think we had like 300 fucking people there. And the venue actually changed its policies about throwing shows after that show. And like so many people and promoters have come back to me being like, yeah, that show fucking and something or other about it and how it's affecting their show now. And I'm just like, fuck, dude, I'm sorry. But there were so many people at that show and it was for such a fucking like personal and just overall positive reason that we were there. And it was just like very special, something in the air that night. And then again, our release show that we had for this new record in September was very similar. Like the venue was like, "Oh, this is the cap," and I was like, "Fuck, that kind of sucks." And then we just fucking way packed it over, and the venue started like freaking the fuck out. And there was a couple of hardcore dancers that we played like with three other hardcore bands, and we played more of our hardcore material too. So it was like great vibe. And there was just a lot of kids who like didn't hardcore dance. So they were like just normal moshing or headbanging or whatever. And the three other bands were not used to that. So we had our homies, like I really remember Reality Denied played second, and they're one of my favorite hardcore bands. And he was just like, he leaned into it. He's like, fuck it, like this is not our normal type of show. So he had everyone fucking like bouncing like the whole venue. I was like standing at the back of it, and I was like, this is so fucking sick. So everyone just kind of like adjusted their mindsets and their vibes a little bit. Um, and it just ended up being a really, really great special night for everyone involved that I know of.
So all I'm getting from this pretty much is whenever Ethereal Tomb has a special night at a show, usually they pack out the venue much more than is supposed to, and the venue freaks out because holy crap, what the hell is actually going on here?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, shoot, as you guys continue to grow and get bigger, you know, maybe as you start traveling more around Canada, come over to the United States, play some shows here, you know, you start packing out shows here, and all of a sudden it's, you know, you start having venues change their policies based on how much they can actually fit in there, because that's just going to become like a commonality and a trait that Ethereal Tomb has. That's what I'm hoping for, at least.
That would be rad. We have that in Toronto for sure. But we're going on a US tour in April, and so we're gonna try our hands in the States and see how it goes.
Ooh, well, before I ask you my next question, I just gotta get a. I mean, if you can say, then say it. If not, just give me a generalization of what this US tour you guys are doing in April. Like, where are you gonna be playing?
I finished the tour routing, I think yesterday, and it's pretty good. I didn't prioritize too much in the Northeast because like we live in the Northeast. So if we just want to take 5 days off at any given time after we get our visas, we can just go hit five Northeastern dates. So we're gonna do cross Canada, like the plains and into BC, and then from there we're gonna go like Seattle, like Portland, Salt Lake City, LA, you know, through Nevada and everything down south, Tampa, up the East Coast, and like a little bit in the middle, like Oklahoma City and shit. So like we're hitting like we have 4 weeks. That's pretty much what we can do, and we're just gonna try and fit as much as we fucking can. I wish we could do more, but that's basically like what we can. That's what we can do realistically right now.
Well, yeah, do what you can do realistically. That makes sense. The reason I asked is because I'm like, oh, I just want to see if you guys are coming anywhere around me. But the way you made it sound, it looked like you are skipping me entirely. What the hell, man?
Where are you from?
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, about maybe an hour and a half north of Chicago.
Yeah, okay. That's the area that I'm talking about, where it's just like that's shit we can drive to for even just a single show if in theory if we wanted to. So I'm gonna spend the energy of like taking time off for this like big tour in places that are like more unrealistic for us to get to. Because
See,
like Chicago's like really not that far.
I know. I totally get that. I totally understand that. Don't get me wrong. I just need to give you some shit because I was like, you guys are going on tour. I might be able to see you guys play live. And I'm like, probably the closest place you're going to be to me is going to be like at the bare minimum, like a 9 to 10 hour drive. And that might be a little bit tougher than I would like to.
Yeah. I would tour till we're homeless if it was up to me, you know? But like we have lives and we have some shit we got to do. So like we'll be back on the road again when we can.
Stupid responsibilities. Grr.
Yeah,
I hate those things. They prevent me from going to too many shows. even though I go to a lot anyway, but stupid responsibilities. However, you did say that when you were the first show you were talking about, Alexander, where you packed out the venue, they changed their policies. You did it for a certain cause that, you know, you were really behind and really had a lot of positive impact. I got to ask specifically, what was that cause you guys were playing for?
So it was for two different organizations. So one's a nonprofit called Nation Skate Youth, which is a group of homies out in British Columbia who bring skateboarding and language-based learning to like Native youth. And then the other one is Toronto Indigenous Harm Reduction, which is a direct action group in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which takes care of like houseless relatives on the street.
I was going to say, the reason I wanted to ask about that, because I thought that's where you're going to go with it, because when Fight On Sight brought you guys up in the podcast, they said you did a lot for the native populations and really focus in on putting a lot of support behind that through your music and through your actions as well. And I got my biggest key to ask on that was, I see you guys are really doing that and really putting your effort into it, but what's your real motivation behind that as well? Like, I really want to get to know why you guys want to do this so much so that everyone knows about it and can help support you in that effort as well.
Right. Well, I'm the sorry. I got sick on tour. I'm just getting over it. I'm the only native member of the band. So I mean, not that necessarily like takes away or adds anything, I would say, but I realized that like we have like I have the power to throw a show whether I'm playing it or not. And you know, if you have that, like, I'll just keep using the word power. I don't necessarily like that word in this context, but like I have the ability to bring people together, and why not do that for my community, for hardcore, for metal, and for like Indigenous relatives, like you know, I have the ability, and to me, I perceive that as also having the responsibility to do something. And I'm happy to do it.
All right, that does make sense to me. I always want to know, like, okay, if someone's doing something, okay, like what's the reason behind it, so that if we get a little bit more of an understanding behind it from our perspective as listeners and our perspective as fans, we can get even further behind you guys as well and help you out with those efforts. And it really brings a little bit more of this, like, what was I going to say about it? A little more of this certain, like, vibrato behind the band as well, because now you have a piece of something that you're standing up for, something that you're putting your support behind. It adds a little bit more of that punk rock flavor to it that you spoke about, like, when you first were starting about finding out about these bands like Minor Threat. You're putting more of this, have this ability to gather people, have this ability to get people with common interests in the exact same place. And it's your chance to, you know, make a positive impact on your own community as well. So how are you going to do that? You have the ability to do it, and you're going to go and do it. You're going to support these causes. You're going to bring these issues to light. You're going to be able to have these conversations through your music and be able to inform even some of your listeners as well, not only through your music, but through them going further into some of these organizations and going further into the concepts that you're bringing up. It's something like, for me specifically, where my favorite band of all time is Rise Against. I mean, when it comes to political stuff, they're always talking about this stuff. They're always on the forefront of it. And while for a good number of their things, I don't specifically align with them politically, it still allows me to get their perspective on it, listening to their music, still enjoying every bit of it, and being able to dive deeper into their own thought process, dive deeper into the thought process behind that political take and that reasoning, and figure out if it's something where, if I'm into it or not, why I'm into it or not, but also be able to respect the other side of the opinion as well. So when it comes to something like what you guys are doing, it absolutely makes sense to support your own community in that way, because you have the ability to do it, and it's something that you're passionate about. So you have the chance, you have the ability. Why not take that to its full advantage and be able to shed light on some issues, be able to show support to some of those groups, and show support to your own community at the exact same time? It makes a lot of sense, and it also adds a little bit more of this, I don't know, for me personally, it adds a little bit more of this drive behind the band, especially from a listener's perspective. Like, there's going to be some there that you can always drive towards. and just really connect with, whether you are more connected to the Indigenous population, Indigenous communities, or other communities that might be struggling at the same point as well. Just having that ability to connect and, not necessarily compare, but sympathize and see where you can make your own positive impacts with your own communities as well.
Yeah, I'm always like, I'm so fucking psyched when people just like ask me like how to do a show or how to start a band or like how do I make flyers or whatever it is. Like I'm so fucking happy to help anyone with anything like that. And like like we talk like you talked a lot about like shedding light on issues and whatnot. I also like I've kind like I didn't plan for this to happen, but it's kind of just inherently taken place that like I've the band has also become like an example, like a positive example of like um just like getting out there and doing it. And like I've had like native youth like coming to me telling me how much they appreciate like the representation and that they're going to start a band now or they started playing guitar or whatever it is. And it's just like people bitch and complain about like, oh, like people bitch and complain about fucking representation and like, oh, well, I just think the better person or whatever, whatever. Like, I don't really give a fuck because I think representation matters. And if Ethereal Tomb, if that's Ethereal Tomb for someone, then I'm so fucking grateful. And I just hope that we like fly that flag well and we get the kids fucking stoked. That's what gets me the most hyped at the end of the day.
Getting the kids hyped and stoked about themselves and also feeling like they're able to play music because they see somebody doing it that, they connect with, they represent with, and having that representation. Yeah, you're right. It does matter. It absolutely does matter, because if you see someone that's doing something and they connect with them a little bit more on a personal level, whether it's through your background, whether it's through your community, whether it's just through some sort of trait that they have that you absolutely connect with, you feel like, if you want to do something, you can do this. I mean, you have kids coming up to you, saying they want to start a band, they want to play guitar, they want to do this, they want to do that. And they're able to have the inspiration from it, from what you guys are doing. I mean, you guys have this ability to go out and do stuff. And there's a lot of people, I'm going to even say this too, there's a lot of people that say they want this stuff to happen. They type it on their keyboards and then don't take any action on it. You guys, with what you love to do and what you're doing, you're taking action by just doing what you want to do and doing what you love. And you're connecting with so many other people through the process, not only in the hardcore scene, not only in the music scene in Canada, but also with the Indigenous population as well. It's just a great thing, because you guys are actually doing what you love and having a positive impact all around in many other facets than just having your music make people feel good.
Yeah, it's I'm just, I'm more than grateful for all of it. And we did a Canadian tour this summer, and we had like, I don't know if it's normal for like, because I used to live in Winnipeg and I used to live in Edmonton, and like to see like other native people around is so much more common than in Toronto. Toronto's so like seemingly rare compared to living in those cities or even just passing through those cities. So I don't know how like normal shows go there, but like for a lot of the shows on our Canadian tour, we had so many fucking Indigenous youth out, um, that like I don't. That's what I'm saying. Is like I don't know if it's because of us or because that's how shows normally go. Like I really don't know, but regardless, it gets me excited to see.
Whether it is the way that shows are out there in Winnipeg and Edmonton, or whether it's, the fact that you guys are able to bring them out, the fact still stands that when you guys played those shows that they were out there. That is the thing that we know.
Yeah. So I'm grateful.
All right, and I'll go to Aiden on this one. So what's your opinion on all this? What's your take on all of this? Like as a member of the band that's not Alexander at this point in time, like what do you see on this, and how do you feel about this not being from that native background?
I think anybody that can stand up, say what they believe in, and if you're gonna go against it, then fuck you. In any regard, it's a wonderful thing to see. Taking action is huge. Not enough people do it. I will admit I wish I took more action when I was younger, growing up. I struggled with social anxiety for a bit, so being able to get up and say, "Yeah, I can actually fucking do this. Doesn't matter what it is. These are the steps I'm going to take to get there," and you see it through. It's a lot easier in reality than people make it out to be in their minds. I feel. It's just we're in the business of doing. Get up and do it. Find a way. If you want to, you will succeed. It's that easy.
I think you said one of the best things I've ever heard on the podcast is you're in the business of just doing it. And it makes a lot of sense too. And even though you wish you would have done more of this stuff earlier on in life and had more support behind the stuff earlier on, spoke up earlier on. Yeah, we all wish we would have done stuff that was earlier on, but it depends upon, okay, did you actually take action on it? Where have you actually done something about it? And for you, yeah, you absolutely have. I always look at it was, when is the best time to do something that you wish you would have done? Way back when you first could have done it. When's the second best time? Right now, because right now you can actually do something about, like, this is the moment you can actually do it. And you guys are doing it right now. You guys are actually making that positive impact with your music and doing the things that you love and connecting with so many other people. That is such a positive thing that no one can ever take away from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, I got one other question before we wrap this up. Are you guys ready for it?
Let's do it.
It is the exact same question I've asked a lot of other bands, and is the exact same question I asked Fight On Site, which brought you guys to the podcast as well. So I'm going to ask you guys, can you name 3 bands in the Canadian scene, whether it's hardcore or not, that you guys are absolutely digging right now? It can be bands that are bigger than you, smaller than you. I don't care what it is. The bands that you guys are really connecting with right now, I'm looking for 3. So go.
I want to hear what Aiden has to say. But I'm just gonna give you 3 of my own. Mile End, Blood Wraith, and Purity Culture. Those are my 3 choices.
I'm one band immediately comes to mind, and that's it's Shingen out of Niagara area. My homie Logan and the guys in Shingen, they're super active. They're putting out music. Logan's booking shows. Logan's pretty young, and he's in the business of doing, we'll say. He's booking shows. He's putting shit together in his area. They recently did a tour with Sunnyside. They did a Quebec, Ontario run, I believe it was, over 2 different weekends. Like they want to go out and do it, and they're finding a way. So biggest respects to them for that.
Yeah, I think I used to live in Niagara as well, and it was pretty fucking desolate place, especially for hardcore or anything heavy. And I think the Niagara community like is definitely owed in a large part to Logan just getting up and deciding to start doing some shit.
Sometimes you got to take matters in your own hands, you know?
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to be in the business of doing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna expect some like Ethereal Tomb shirts that just say "in the business of doing" at some
Yeah,
point in time.
we'll do like a fucking 2009 deathcore shirt, just impact font.
Doing
Yeah. But it'd be impact font, but there has to be some sort of like weird, goopy, creative, like weird monster that's on there too. Like, and Asking Alexander, a Devil Wears Prada shirt from 2009. But you're right, Alexander. That has to be the impact font.
Yeah, and then one of the words, like, we'll change business to bidness, and we'll fucking make it some slime text or some shit like that.
yeah.
Business, or bidness, or you also do business, or like BIZNIZ, and just have the Z's like drooping all groupy, and
Yeah,
or just
exactly.
getting eaten by some sort of weird like slime filled monster. You know, when he's in the business of doing, he's in the business of eating this shirt. That's all we're saying about that right now. Oh dear God. Well, if you guys missed 2009 shirts, here's one for you. You might also, you want to get, go back to 2009, break out the skinny jeans again, get the I Heart Boobies wristbands, just go for the full on style.
It's like you knew me in 2009.
Dude, 2009, I was a freshman in high school. So I saw all of this like
Yeah.
as upfront as possible.
Yeah, it was the same in the skate community, but instead of deathcore shirts, it was like what the fuck would it be, like circa tees or something like that.
Oh, back in 2009, we hardly knew ye. We hardly knew ye. Well, guys, as we bring this podcast to conclusion, one thing I'd like to do is give my guests, which is both of you right now, a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the episode. So, Aiden Alexander, the floor is yours.
We put out a new record in September called When the River's Dry, and it's available on LP. I think the tapes are sold out, but it's free, or quote unquote free, on streaming services. And other than that, start a band, book all ages shows, and don't fucking suck anyone's fucking dick in your scene. Just go and be yourself and book your own shows if you have to, and just be yourself, because there's a lot of people, kind of all over, just like a little too worried about what other people are doing, or how other people are going to perceive whatever the fuck they're doing, and just do whatever the fuck you want to do.
And do it now. Don't put your life on hold. Don't wait around for shit to happen. Make it happen.
Be in the business of doing. The business of doing. Gotta get that shirt made now. I'm pretty much set on it right now in my mind. Like, this shirt has to be made.
Fuck it. Throat tat.
Throat tat. No regrets either. Not even a single letter, baby.
Yeah.
Well, now it's time for me to bring this podcast conclusion in 3 specific ways. First things first, when it comes to Ethereal Tomb, when it comes to connecting with them online, being able to listen and stream their brand new LP, When the River Dries, or When the River's Dry. I completely messed it up already, so feel free to roast me.
People fuck it up all the time. It's the When the River's Dry is like doesn't necessarily make sense to the brain on a first like kind of like viewing.
Okay, so When the River is Dry, yeah. I mean, if you guys are watching the video on YouTube, you're going to literally see the name of the LP on the bottom of the screen. So if you want, when you want to go and stream that, when you want to follow along with the band online, when you want to make sure you know when new shows by them are going to be happening and where to get your tickets as well, where to get everything, where to get merch, best place to do it is to go script to the podcast where it says find Ethereal Tomb online. Links and labels for everything social media wise, links and everything for merch wise, where you can stream their music, especially When the River is Dry. Yes, I think I said that right now. Thank God. Everything's gonna be down there for you. I'm doing all the research for you. I'm taking all the time. I'm your own personal Google when it comes to Ethereal Tomb right now. So go script to the podcast. It is all gonna be there. Now, gentlemen, when I have guests in the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise if I enjoy the podcast that says, thank you for being on the podcast. I appreciate your time. And I wish to continue to support the band in any way I would like. And this is usually how I do it because you guys hit on it. And I hate to start these out with if. If implies this might not happen. I say when. When implies this is gonna happen. Date and time yet to be determined. So when I get to see you guys perform live, I'm gonna go all Liam Neeson on your asses. I will look for you. I'll pursue you. I will find you. I will say hi. And first round's on me, whatever it might be. If it, like, because I know, Alexander, you said you kind of connect with the straight edge community. If you don't drink, do not have any substance, dude, we can get a fucking pizza if you want, man.
Hell yeah. Yeah, pizza for sure.
All right, I'm walking to the show with a pizza, and I'm just be like, alrighty, yep, I'm here for the show, but I got a pizza to deliver. Also, who's going to say no to the guy walking to the venue with a pizza? Like, you can't say no to that.
You could just say you're there to deliver and just get in,
Yeah.
I figured out what was it. If it was, I said something was like, if you had a pizza, if you brought a case of beer, I forgot the third thing I said. You could pretty much get in anywhere.
Fucking high vis vest.
The ladder. It was the ladder. It was the freaking ladder. Yeah. If you walk with the ladder, everyone thinks you're like just gonna be working on something. They're just gonna let you right by.
I keep a high vis vest on hand for shit like that.
That also works too, because you see a guy walking in with high vis. I mean, what's going to happen? Are they going to be working on something, or is there going to be some guy that runs into the pit wearing a traffic cone called Coney that you have to worship at this time? And
yeah,
yes,
they're either
a
Biohazard fan or they're working.
Oh, that is perfect. And now, as we bring this podcast to its full conclusion, guys, I cannot end this by saying goodbye. That is way too final because I made a promise to you. I am going to see you guys perform live. I'm going to make good on that promise. as well as I'd love to be back in the podcast again in the future because this was a lot of fun. So this can't be goodbye. No. This is.
I never say goodbye.
See you later. Well, folks, this is my interview with Alexander and Aiden from Ethereal Tomb out of Canada, and now it's time for Kevin's final thoughts. So, when Fight on Site actually mentioned them during their episode of the podcast, they mentioned that Ethereal Tomb was doing a lot for the Indigenous communities in Canada as well. That was something I was interested in, but I know the conversation kind of took a fun flow, just seeing how they were impacting the Canadian hardcore scene, all the stories they had around there. But when we actually brought that up, and I wanted to dive deep into it, I really respect it for, two reasons. The first reason is this band is in the business of doing. Like, they're not sitting around. They're not just, we're going to post stuff online and say we're going to do stuff. No, they're actually out there doing it. They're the ones that are playing these shows, booking these shows even. And they're the ones that are taking this opportunity, able to gather people together and be able to shed light on some of these issues and shed light on some of these groups that could help support these communities as well that are closer to the band, specifically Alexander. And it makes a lot of sense. And I love the fact they're doing it because you're seeing the positive impact it's having not only on the kids that are in the scene as well, but from these kids in native populations that are coming up and seeing that there are people out there that are doing things that they wish they can do and are now inspired to do so. That's where representation comes in, and that's where representation matters from a visual aspect, from a symbolic aspect. And you're seeing it positively happen with Ethereal Tomb, and I absolutely love it. The second reason I'm a big fan of it, and a lot of it is because, we see a lot of bands. I see so many people out there, they just say the same stuff. They just say it over and over again. You got to do something, and they don't do it. This band, they're in the business of doing, but they also use that platform to inspire people like, hey, you can do this. And like Alexander said at the end of it, if you want to do this, he gave you the whole entire advice to book some shows, book your own shows if you have to, go out and just do it. You literally, the Shia LaBeouf meme, just do it. This is basically what it is. You're in the business of doing. If you want to make something happen, you're not going to do it by sitting on your ass. You're not going to do it by posting a comment on Instagram or Twitter or on TikTok or on Facebook or something like that. You got to actually get up and go and do it. And they're giving you the blueprint to go and do it. They're doing it. So, for the podcast, I'm doing it. This is episode 471. We're going to be at 500 episodes by March. Yeah. So if you want to have a positive impact, you can. Just do it. But when it comes to Ethereal Tomb, go to the description of the podcast where it says find Ethereal Tomb online. Links and labels for everything for them, where you can find them on social media, where you can find them shows, where you can get some merch them, and where you can get music, especially when the river is dry, their brand new LP from 2023. Also, make sure you're following along with the Chord Progression podcast. So follow along with this Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, link description of the podcast below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right there on YouTube so you can get these episodes right directly to you every single Tuesday and Thursday, and our Friday reaction videos as well. Also, if you're on Spotify, Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, hit that follow button because the full interviews are there every single Tuesday and Thursday as well. Hit the like button on this episode because it helps push the algorithm and does a lot for us. So I want to thank you guys. Thank Ethereal Tomb. And that's who you guys. Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. I'm a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!